Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Kevin Murphy. 3 rooms. What does he mean by that? What rooms is he talking about? Well, it's the 3 rooms of thought. We have a lot of thought going on in our head, but how do we kind of put it in different rooms so we actually understand what those thoughts are? Sometimes we get caught up in our thoughts. We don't ignite our heart, soul, and spirit into the equation and understand there's an intellect there as well. How do we step out of all of that constant treadmill thought and step into something that can actually lead us down a productive path? Now, he has a very diverse background. He's been in corporations very successfully, but decided to walk away from it all, to write this book, to follow this path, because it meant so much to him. So let's take this journey with Kevin and discover what the 3 rooms mean, and also what it meant to him to walk away from everything, to, compelled to do this. So welcome to the show, Kevin.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah. Thanks for having me on.
So your background, it certainly wasn't this. So give a little bit of a synopsis of where you actually came from before you redirected yourself.
Sure. Well, actually, I started on Wall Street right out of college. I was 22 years old and had a 33-year career at Citigroup and all its predecessor firms. So there was Shearson, Lehman, Hutton, Solomon, Smith, Barney. And going through there in the whole corporate chain and going through all the different mergers that took place, that was a tremendous experience. But for me personally, it was probably about 25 years ago where, I went through some personal, issues and experiences where it always seemed like life was throwing curveballs. And I decided to start to look within for answers because I certainly wasn't getting them from anyone on the outside. And as I started to, look further in and explore all different types of paths, everything in my corporate career started to take off. And it wasn't until about maybe 3-4 years ago when I was literally in the gym one day and I was working out and I just had this concept of 3 doors. I kept seeing 3 doors, a past, present, and a future door. And I didn't know what it was. And I had this premonition that I was supposed to write about it, but I didn't really know. And so a couple of weeks later, I just started writing an outline and I wrote 10 chapters.
Wow.
And which is the 10 chapters of the book today.
Yeah.
And I then it took a couple of years, and I just started going through and I kept describing behind each door and what each room, if you would call it, would look like. And so the premise kept coming more and more, the premise being that our experience of life is not based on what we do for a living or what we have, it's based on what we think. And our thoughts can only be in one of 3 places, either the past or the past room, the future or the future room, or the present room. And whichever room our thoughts are in determines our experience of life in that moment.
Yes.
Because of course our thoughts can go from back and forth. And so the key is knowing which room your thoughts are in. And in order to do that, you have to observe your thoughts. And it is that active observation that creates or separates your awareness from your thoughts. So now you are the one being aware of your thoughts and you're no longer at the effect of them. And that awareness is that consciousness that all the mystics have always talked about through the years, that divine consciousness, that Christ consciousness or Buddha consciousness. And that's what we all want to connect to. And so as it came more and more clear, I just kept writing and filling in. So the concept was there. And I was riding on the Long Island Railroad to work. I was riding on the subways. I was riding everywhere. And through books or songs or movies that I saw, I'd come up with ideas and say, "Wow, this goes in, in the past room, and this is perfect examples of the past room." Or, "Oh, look at this person's always worried about this, and look at their thoughts are constantly in the future room." And this is so it was a whole bunch of little short stories that filled in the entire book. And
Mm.
so it was just a couple of years ago where I really liked my job, and I loved what I did, and I got to travel around the world talking about market structure, and my career had gone from answering phones as a college grad,
Mm-hmm.
and phoning orders down to the exchanges of the floor, to the whole electronification of the equity markets,
Mm.
and being in that side, knowing where the whole world was going and how the markets work today. So I was one of the few people that could say, "Oh, this is what it was like back in the early 80s because I was there, and this is what it's like today because that's the business that I'm in." But when the book came out, it was just about done, and this is before all the final editing, and it was something that I just had to
Yeah.
let out and get out. And so it was so much easier to just step
Mm.
back, say, 33 years, and it was easier to retire, although I'm too young to feel like I'm retired. And so stepping away and saying, this is what I need to do, and along with a couple of other personal projects that I wanted to do. And then it was the last 2 years I've just been doing the editing process
Mm-hmm.
and trying to live the message, because I kept getting that
Yeah.
message that you wrote the book, now live it. And so
Yes.
it was
Yes.
live it.
And I love the fact that you just poured out the 10 chapters. So many people are disciplined and I've got to be structured, and you allowed it to come out. Then you looked at what you actually had, and then you studied. What do I have? What does it really mean? And how can I really refine the articulation of this? Or how can I connect to what I've written? But so many people get held back. I've got to write perfectly. It's got to be perfectly structured. And I say, let it flow. Let it flow, because that's,
Absolutely.
it had to come out of you for you to understand what it is you needed to do. And had you
Correct.
restrained or controlled, you wouldn't have seen it the same way. So kudos for you, for somebody who's actually in a structural business, to let that go and let it pour out of you. And then to be brave enough to walk away from a career that not only you like, but clearly is very sustainable, to take that leap of faith into something you believe in, that you've dedicated the last 2 years to, because you believe in the message. So thumbs up for that already, because that's already an
Thank you very
enormous leap that a lot of people aren't prepared to do. But I call this your redirect, and it's putting you on the path that you, in this chapter of your life, are meant to be on. And the message that you're talking about, past, present, and future, is so absolutely relevant. We're very dictated by our past, and we allow it to define our present, and that has an effect on our future. But what is it about our past that we can take with us, that has taught us, that's given us tools, given us knowledge, that serves in the present, that can seed for the future? And that's really where we have to look at it, isn't it? Not get stuck, what happened
much.
to me, that has a crippling effect onto now and that's going to block anything happening in the future. And it is the way we look at all of those rooms and truly understand what they mean to us without getting stuck in the emotion of it. That is where we need to be, isn't it?
Absolutely. And people think about, well, you need to learn from the past. You have to go back and learn from the past, and you have to plan for the future. So you can't always be in the present room. And that's not true. It's
Mm-hmm.
going back, and like you were talking about going back to the past. It's going back, and you can learn from the past, and you can take that into the present, as you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about, and then start to define and create a future that you like. But it's when you get stuck in the
Yes.
past room with the
Mm-hmm.
thoughts that are and the emotions that are there, and you don't realize you're stuck there.
Right.
So one of the concepts of the three rooms is not just our thoughts. And actually, the tagline for the three rooms is, change your thoughts, change your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not exactly accurate. It's really change your emotions and
Thank you.
change your feelings and change your
Yes.
life. But
Yes.
your thoughts have the biggest effect on your emotions.
Yes.
So when we go into the past and we remember something that aggravated us or
Mm-hmm.
got us stressed or, made us feel things, resentment or guilt or things like that, then every time we go back and think about that, we feel those same emotions again.
Yeah.
There was a link to those thoughts. And so that's what I'm talking about when we go to the past room and it's linked to those negative emotions. And what happens is we keep going back and we don't realize we're there, or people keep,
Mm-hmm.
reminding us of something and we get angry again. And some people say like, no, 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 I'm not mad, or I'm not, I don't think about him, but your emotions don't lie. Let's say your thoughts can fool you, but your
Yes.
emotions can't. And so in each room,
Yeah.
there's the, from the past and the future, we kind of put some emotions there.
I would say be emotionally tuned in, but don't become emotional. And it's so easy to get stuck into the emotion of the motion, and that emotion is there for a moment. It's being triggered by something going on. Have a look at it, spend the emotion, move on. But what happens when we get stuck in the emotion and we become emotional about the emotion? And the next thing you know, we're spiraling out of effect and we've forgotten what we're really emotional about because we're now caught up in the emotion, which kind of has a little choo-choo train of its own going off at full speed. So we have to know our emotions, but we also, don't get stuck in becoming too emotional with them, because they're there purely as an indication of how you feel. And if you don't like how you feel, what are you going to do in the present moment to change it so you'll feel better in the next moment? It's not about staying in that pain, is it? We actually have that free will and that choice to move out of it. Look at it as a bad
Abs-
movie. I'm sure if you look at any of the directors, Spielberg or anything, you'll look at a movie and go, oh God, that was a lemon. Why did I make that? So why can't we look at some of the decisions we've made in our life and go, oy vey, what was I thinking of? I know better now, so I'm not going to repeat it. Why can't we learn from that past room?
It's so true, and because we really do have control over our emotions,
Mm,
and I think that's one of the biggest lessons that that people can learn, and that I needed to learn. Because our thoughts are directly linked to our emotions and how
mm-hmm.
we feel, and we can think positive thoughts that make us feel good. Everyone can do that. You can just say, think of something that you really enjoy, or something that makes your heart sing, and
Mm-hmm.
people can do that, and you really start to feel better.
Yes.
But we don't, and then you can take that out into the world, but we let everything we see and hear
Mm-hmm.
affect how we feel,
Mm-hmm.
instead of let how we feel start with how we feel and let that affect everything that we see and
Right.
hear. And
Yes.
so it really has to start there. And so it starts with looking out into the world, and not letting that determine all of your emotions and your thoughts, because you can see some things that remind you of things, and once
Yes.
again, if it's that thought that leads to that negative emotion, or something else, you see someone that has something, and oh,
Mm-hmm.
I want that car too. That's my favorite car, but I'm not going to be able to buy it. I don't have enough money, and I don't know how I'm going to get enough money. And then all of a sudden, that stress and anxiety all
Yes.
starts, and now
And
you're
I'm
up in the
defined
future
by
realm.
the car I don't
Yeah,
have. My whole life is
exactly.
rested on that car, my image, my everything. No, it isn't. And that's the thing about giving the power away to things, isn't it? Giving the power away to expectations that you are only of value if you have this or if you do that. And I think one of the hardest things, I think, people in looking in their rooms and looking in themselves, as you said beautifully earlier, the inside job. Life is an inside job, is that looking at ourselves and not beating ourselves up, but realizing perhaps that some of our programming in our past room wasn't of our choice. And it had maybe a negative effect on decisions that we made for ourselves. But now that we are in a better state of being, we can make better choices in moving forward, and don't get defined about what was. Learn from what was and become what you wish to be. The power is within us, but it is within us, and it's not something we can buy on the outside. It's something we find on the inside.
Absolutely. And you bring up a really good point about the I, and
Mm-hmm.
what the person that everybody else sees. And I make a clear distinction between who am I and where am I. And I
Mm.
think the real question is, where am I?
Mm-hmm.
But it starts with who am I, which is an iconic question that
Yeah.
people have always asked. But you have to ask, which I are they talking about? When you say
Mm-hmm.
who am I, are you talking about the I that everybody else sees? Or are you talking about
Mm.
the I that only you can see on the inside? Because people, when they say that, when they look deep within them and say, who am I? They're not saying, what is my occupation? Who am I? Like, I was a fireman yesterday. Who am I today? Am I a
Mhm.
policeman today? Like, who am I?
Mhm.
They know who they are on the outside. They want to know who they are on the inside. They're
Mhm.
asking, why did I say that? Or why did I do that? Like, who is this? Who is this person on the inside? And, that's who we really need to connect with, the eye on the inside. So
Yeah.
the eye on the outside always changes.
Yes.
You could be a steel worker one day, then you're unemployed, or you're dating somebody, now you're no longer dating them.
Mhm.
The person on the outside is always changing, but the person on the inside never changes. When you connect to that in person, that person inside, whether you call it the soul, your inner being, your eternal being, you realize that we are eternal beings
Mhm.
that have manifested in these physical bodies in
Mhm.
order to experience ourselves. And that's who we are. And when you get to that and you get to know that person inside of you, person who, that was, existed before you came into this physical body and then
Yes.
will continue afterwards, that's the I that you want. And
Yeah.
so who you are on the outside always changes, but who you are on the inside doesn't. So the question that I ask is, where am I?
Yeah.
And where am I is, where are my thoughts?
Mhm.
Because that's my definition of who I am. The great I am is our awareness of being.
Mhm.
That's who
Mhm.
we believe that
And
we
wait a minute,
are.
stop with it. Being, not doing. Being, right?
Correct.
Right, because that's a very big
Being.
difference there. Beingness.
Exactly. And so when you say, I am, and that's your awareness of being, so where are my thoughts? Because we tend to use words like not. I am not good enough for this,
Mhm.
or I am not going to be able to do this, and I am not. And these are thoughts that we put in our heads. And when not follows I am, that becomes your awareness of who you are. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not able to do this, and I'm not. In the past and the future room, we're always adding the not. I'm not
Yeah.
good enough. I'm not going to be able to, or I cannot. And so when we get out of those thoughts and it becomes the I am, and you understand, who you are on the inside and where are my thoughts, you can always kind of catch yourself when you start going that down the road. You start feeling those negative emotions, and you realize, oh, because I'm going into the past and I'm constantly thinking these thoughts. Let me come back into the present world, and that
I, you know,
helps you.
I think it's knowing who I am, where I am at the time. Because if you're in the past, who are you in the past that is keeping you there, that's stopping you being from in the present? Because so often we find ourselves in the past where the pain was, where we weren't good enough, or we didn't achieve, or we always look to all the negative things. Even if we look at something happy, oh, I'll never be that happy again. Because we look at that image of the past, because we look at who we were at that time, rather
Correct.
than where we were and the effect that it had on us. It all of a sudden defined who we are. So therefore, I must be that now. No, you're in a different room now. You're a different person in this present right now, right? And so it is understanding which room you're in, why you're here, because you're in a room for a particular reason. Something's put you in there. And it's, who are you here now? Who are you being in this room? And is it defined by the past room? Have you dragged it with you? Or have you let that go and taken some wisdom you've learned about yourself and brought it into this room so that you can step into your beingness, therefore your doingness? But I think the I am and the where we are, it kind of coincide. It's understanding where we are to understand why we are.
Correct. It absolutely comes together
Mm-hmm.
with, who am I and where am I? And constantly when, for myself, if I say, where am I? I'll answer, I'm right here with you.
Mm-hmm.
And it just constantly, all during the day, because, your higher self, your soul,
Mm-hmm.
your inner being never leaves the present room. It's always there waiting for us.
Yes.
And so every time we come back in, we say, oh, here I am. And now you start to see from that perspective. And so constantly you can keep coming back. And in any moment, and that's when, I like to say, of course we move from room to room. Our thoughts go to the past and the future. We have negative emotions.
Yes.
And this is not to think that we're never going to have negative emotions again. We're not going to go to things in the past. But it's recognizing every time you say, where am I? Meaning, where are my thoughts?
Yes.
At least you're recognizing if you're feeling negative emotions or you're feeling anger or you're feeling stress or anxiety, at least you start with the fact that you're aware of it.
Yeah.
And then you can start to come back into the present room. So those times we spend outside of the present room shorten dramatically simply by knowing where. Because the question, think about it, if you just in order to answer the question, where am I? Where are my thoughts? You have to be aware of which room your thoughts are in. That the question, just the simple answering of the question separates your awareness from your thoughts, and now you start to connect to that consciousness.
And of course, you weren't maybe aware. You had slipped into the other room, and you'd slipped into those feelings. Well, what's triggered those feelings? What's going on around you at the present moment in the present that's triggered those feelings, that's pulling you back into that other room. Now you're aware of them. You can come back into the present and deal with those emotions right now so that they don't affect your future room. And of course, when we're looking at the future, the now is always the future, which is very peculiar for some people, but everything folds on top of each other, doesn't it? So we're always carrying our past, our present, and our future with us. But what you're doing is separating it to a point where we can be aware of what those thoughts are, because I think one of the complications we get is that because everything is on top of each other, past, present, future, we don't know how to look at it. It just feels overwhelming. And by going into the different rooms and kind of comprehending, oh, that was then, this is now, this is what potentially could be tomorrow, we can redefine our choices based on correct information rather than information that seems to be coming at us all at once that we can't understand.
So true. That because the whole idea of the three rooms is to try to make it really simple, because more and more people understand how important it is to monitor your thoughts and how it can really affect your health and your wealth and your relationships. But so many of us just don't do a good job at it. So you have to ask why. Like either people think they don't have enough time, or they don't want to take the time, or they just don't know how. And so this really makes it simple. And I like, and I agree with that analogy that there's just so many thoughts. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. They're just all over there. And it's interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I went into one of those warehouses that is an online distributor for household products. And this is where when you order something, you click on it, and they immediately send out the products for you. It's great. Just go on Amazon. But you go into the warehouse, there's 30,000 different products. And if you walked in there for a bar of soap and had to walk around and try to find a bar of soap, it would be a daunting challenge.
I call it the IKEA syndrome. You go in for one thing in IKEA and you've got to walk through the entire warehouse. Like, what did I come for? Where is it?
Exactly. Where am I? And so, but our thoughts, if you have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, there's just so many thoughts, and it's so overwhelming and it's daunting. And so to make it simple and just say, how am I feeling? And just put either I'm thinking, looking in the past, or I'm looking in the future. It's a simple thing to do, and it's simple enough for a child to understand. Like my 11-year-old daughter can recognize more and more, not only where if I'm in the wrong room or my wife is in the wrong room, but her friends or someone on the street will say, "Dad, look, she's really in the past room," because you'll see someone angry or mad about something that happened. And the better we get at observing which room other people are in, the better we get at observing which room we're in. And so making it a simple game as to, where your thoughts are, again, that active observation creates that awareness. And that's where because it all starts, as you said earlier, with that awareness.
And of course, looking into your past room isn't negative. I mean, I know that sometimes when I'm faced with a challenge and I go, oh, how am I going to do this? And all I do is have to reflect back to a past room and go, look what you did then. Look how you had the strength and the courage to overcome that. You can take that same courage here in the now to face whatever obstacle you're in. Or sometimes it's that red flag. Oh, this feels familiar in the present. Look into your past room. Oh, yeah, you went down that road before. There's the red flag. Don't do it again. So you're not saying don't go into the past room. It's just don't get stuck in the past room. It's a reference. It's a library.
It's exactly. And the key, once again, it's being aware. When you're in the present room, being aware that you're going into the
Yeah,
past room to reference something, to remember something, to learn from something, you're not getting stuck there.
right.
And you just, you hit it on the head. It's all about getting stuck. And
Yeah.
there's really three, people say, well, how do you get stuck in the past room and why? And I look at there's really three different explanations for getting stuck in the past room. And one of them is simply because our higher self or our soul is always in the present room. When we go into the past room, and I'm talking about going in the past room, getting stuck there, meaning you have the negative emotions
Yeah.
associated with that, that's
And it
simply
cripples you.
telling you that you are not looking at something the same way that your own higher self is looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at different. You separate it because you think that person screwed you over.
Yep.
You are really still mad at them,
Yep.
but your higher self is not mad at them.
Yeah.
They're not looking to get them back. And so that split emotion is that negative emotion is telling you, oh my God, I'm not looking at this the same way as my soul or my higher self.
Yes.
So that's one of them. The second one, you can think about the law of attraction. And
Mm-hmm.
so our
Mm-hmm.
thoughts and our emotions, you know, attract into us in our life experience, attract into us what we are putting out. And the thoughts are the electrical charge and the
The
emotions are the
vibration.
magnetic
Mm-hmm.
charge. And that's
Yeah.
what we're putting out. And so you're going to think of each room as your point of attraction. And
Mm-hmm.
when you get stuck in the past room and you're thinking negative thoughts and you have, negative emotions, you are now attracting more people who are, angry or resentful or
Yes.
bitter just like you, and you're
Yep.
attracting more, and it's easy to get stuck there.
Yes.
the
Yes.
third the third piece is the scientific explanation, because I've heard people say, I'm not into this, the law of attraction, I don't know
Yeah.
about that, or that, divine presence, stuff. Well, how about science?
Mm-hmm.
So from a scientific standpoint, very simply, every thought that we have produces a chemical, and that
Mm-hmm.
chemical releases, goes down into the hormonal system and causes a feeling. So if you have a stressful thought and it goes into your hormonal system, it then sends a message back to your brain
Yes.
about that feeling. And the brain then creates another thought similar to that emotion, which
Mm-hmm.
that thought then releases another chemical that goes back into the
Yep.
hormonal system. And that loop is how it
Yes.
happens.
The
So
hamster
whether it's
treadmill. Mm-hmm.
anger,
Yeah.
stress, and that's why
Yeah.
I said long-term stress is such a problem, and
Yes.
people are just in there. So physically, you can say, leave out the divine presence. Look at it from a scientific standpoint. You want to keep coming back into the present room, because in the present room, when you think of thoughts of gratitude and
Yes.
appreciation,
Mm-hmm.
that's releasing oxytocins. It's not
Yes.
cortisol, that these negative
Mm-hmm.
chemicals going into your body. It's the positive ones that make you feel good. And those are the healing chemicals. So the more gratitude you have in your life, you can start getting those positive chemicals. And that's the room you want to get stuck in,
Yeah.
because now everything gets changed. And the longer you can stay there, the better. And the less time you spend in the other rooms, the better you come back into that
Right.
present room.
And I've interviewed a lot of people that are on the scientific spectrum. And of course, there's so much quantum energy healing now. And the thing about going quantum, it's suddenly opened up the doors to measuring divine presence or spirituality. And they're beginning to realize that people that resonate on that plane are actually vibrating at a higher frequency. And at that higher frequency, less likely to let in anxieties or depression or negatives, because they just don't compute. And they're now beginning to measure it and go, okay, there is something to this. People who've chosen to live in that realm are actually people living in this positive vibration. And you can actually understand why they're happy. And of course, everybody thinks it's all kumbaya, right? But it is a
Mm-hmm.
state of being that we put ourselves in because we choose to feed the present by raising our frequency and our vibration. And that also blocks out any of the negatives around us. That doesn't mean we're delusional as to what's going on. We see
Correct.
everything that's going on, but we are not emotionally affected by everything that's going on, and we can actually think more clearly as to what we can do about it or what we can't do about it, so we become less stressed about it, because stress right now is the #1 killer. It causes all people to have cancers and heart disease and diabetes and everything. It's the stress factor. And the stress factor
Correct.
very often is in the future room. Everybody stepped into this future room. But what if? What if a nuclear bomb goes off? What if global warming completely consumes us? What if this and what if that? And they get stuck in the what ifs, and they paralyze themselves in the present to do anything about it, because they're stuck in the future of what if. Well, if we're in the present, we can actually lay the seeds and water and nurture the tomorrows to be on a different path. We're in more control in the present room. But it's okay to go into the future to see what is possible, but not to get stuck into the disaster that's coming. How many disaster movies do we see all the time of the end of the world? Right? How many solution movies do you see about what we can do to actually stop the disaster?
Yeah, not nearly as many.
No, I can't
Hardly at
even
all.
think of one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're so true. Going into the future room and people are thinking about the worst case
Yeah.
scenarios, that they can, and they can't. They get in there and they get that loop, and then they fall asleep at night, and then they wake up in the morning. They're thinking about the same thing, and they're
Yes.
stuck, and they're not, looking at. And once again, people say, well, you have to plan for the future, and I don't have to do this, and there's a big difference, from the creating the future, in the present realm. It's not about looking out at something and thinking of a worst case scenario. It is imagining what you would want in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And then, picturing a best case scenario, imagining that, and then assuming it to be true. Now, you don't have to know how it's going to
Right.
happen, but in
Yeah.
your imagination, you say, I see this unfolding, and you
Yeah.
picture it. And you picture the feeling of it, because now the feeling of it brings you back into the present realm. And
Right.
that thought and that feeling and that image of it already happening, coupled with the emotions that you have of being appreciative and gratitude for it happening, then that starts to bring that, whatever way you want to look at it, the law of attraction starts to,
Yes.
to bring more things into your
That's
life that,
watering the
that will
seeds. That's the
you that
watering the
way.
seeds of growth,
Um,
isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we create our future in the present room with our imagination.
Yes.
And somehow imagination has gotten,
A
I
bad
don't know,
rap.
like with kids, I want to keep a bad rap. I want to tell,
Yeah.
tell my daughters, just use your imagination. You can
Yes.
do anything you want. And it's not like, well, you got to be realistic, and, you can't always have everything you want. And yeah, it's just, use that imagination, believe in it. And, you go back to the science, when you look at all of that spontaneous healings, the one main ingredient that all of those people that have had spontaneous healings from really significant
Yes.
diseases and illnesses is that a belief that there is something greater than themselves.
Yeah.
And that's something that there's a power, the power, that created the body can heal the body.
Yes.
But, that belief that there is something, and I'm going to let that take over.
Yeah.
And I'm going to let that figure it out. So you're imagining something in the future how you want. It's not like, well, I don't know how it's going to happen. It's okay. You
But
don't have to know how it's going to happen. Just,
do you think it's
feel
a
it.
human flaw that we have this illusion that as human beings that we have all the intellect in the world and we should know everything? Religion is based purely on faith. Purely on faith.
Mhm.
Spirituality is purely faith. When we take that leap of faith into something, it is that we don't know how it's going to happen. We just believe that if we take that leap, something good is going to happen. We do everything on a daily basis in faith. Yet there's this other thing is that, but no, I need to understand this and dissect it and look at the equations and, the this and the that of it. And it's like, get out of yourself. Plant the seeds, water it, nurture it, love it, believe in it. And the possibilities, feed those possibilities and scenarios in the future room. But don't dictate how it's going to be. Allow it to become and be aware of what it is becoming.
I couldn't agree more. And faith is a hard thing
Yeah.
for a lot of people to to
Trust.
grasp and believe in. But
Mm-hmm.
it's who you're listening to. I mean, we all have an inner teacher, and
Yes.
we can
Yes.
We can listen to our external teachers,
Mm-hmm.
everybody who's out here telling us what we should know and what we should do. And then there's that inner teacher that is guiding us ourselves. When you really listen to that inner teacher, when you can come back into the present room, so your thoughts are not, worrying about things in the future, you're not angry about something in the past, and you can connect with that own inner teacher, and you can have a communication with that. And then things start to happen where you say, wow, that's what I was thinking about. And oh yeah, that's, you know what, now that just showed up. And now that starts to, that's reinforce that faith, because you start to experience things that, your inner teacher is helping you,
Yes.
guiding you along the way. And that's when you really start to trust. And that's when you start to go more and more. And that the old saying, as within, so without. And so
Yes.
that's really where you start to, when you're in the present room, and is what you were alluding to earlier, and you have that
Mm-hmm.
guidance, then all of a sudden that's what you're putting out there, and other things that are happening in the world aren't affecting you the same way,
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
you're affecting what you see in here.
Right. Well, the thing is, the perfect storm can be happening and around you, but why does it have to happen within you? Right?
It
You
doesn't
can,
have to.
the thing is we take on the storm, and it's like, but it's not your storm to take on. How are you going to resolve or know what to do or how to step in to anything of that storm, whether it's rescue or whether it's redirecting or whatever it is you're meant to do with that storm? How are you going to do that if you go and step into the storm? You just become part of the storm, the chaos, and you can't resolve anything in that chaos, although life is chaos. And we're always looking at trying to create order out of that chaos. But we create better order if we decide not to jump into everything and just wait for that door to open as to what we are meant to do when we're meant to do it. Again, that awareness. I don't think we live enough in awareness, in self-awareness, in awareness of which doors are opening for us, or in belief of possibilities. We're living so much by the dictation of what should be, and what will be if
Hmm.
you do this. And it's like, well, what if we allow to be and just pay attention to that and then know what to do when we need to do it? It's like you writing 10 chapters of the book. You just did. You just did. You allowed yourself to do it. Then you set back to make order out of it. But had you done it the other way round, would we have got the same outcome? I don't believe so.
Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
And, um, yeah, you have to just allow
Yeah.
allow things to happen
Yes.
in its in its own way.
I mean, that's letting
As
go of the control, isn't it? The only way we have control is to let go of control, right? The control that we have is being aware of when it affects us, when it doesn't, what our role is, what to do. Then we have control over our actions. But this whole need to control everything is, we realize, we're getting rope burn trying to hold on to this rope of control. Let it go, and now you're in better control. And I know for some people they don't simply understand that, but if you've been there, you do. And the only way you understand that is if you're in a present room.
Yeah, and I think letting go, you bring up a really good point about letting go. And one of the main concepts, and I think probably the most important concept in the three rooms, is the concept of the movie theater, because
Mm-hmm.
that is our experience of life. The Eastern, a lot of the Eastern cultures, talked about the play of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
which, I reference as the movie of our life, because within each room, connected to each room, is a theater.
Yes.
And within each room, there's the thoughts and your
Mm-hmm.
emotions that you're
Mm-hmm.
projecting out, and that is creating the movie of your life. And the only thing that differentiates between each movie is the lens through which we are observing the movie of our life. And so we have a past um, theater and a past movie, there's the present movie, and the future movie, which is just your experience based on those thoughts and emotions. And so that's what's creating it. And when we can sit back and we can watch the movie of our
Mm-hmm.
life through the eyes of our creator, if you will, or through the eyes of our higher self, then it's so much easier to not get caught up in all the things that are happening around us. And
Yes.
once again, going back to connecting to that eye that
Mm-hmm.
only you can see. And that really does change things, because when you're watching a really good movie, like there's, the Pursuit of Happiness, with Will
Yes,
Smith.
that's
And he
excellent
was,
movie.
so you watch it. If you think about watching it for the second time,
Hmm.
where he's playing a real life story of
Hmm.
someone who's going through all kinds of trials and tribulations and struggling through hardship, and then he finally comes out on the end, and he perseveres, and he becomes successful, and his family's in good place, and you feel really good. Now if you see that movie for the second time, you don't, as he starts to struggle, you don't fast forward and say, I don't want to watch this part, I just want to go to the
Yeah,
happy end. Then you
yeah,
miss the whole movie and
yeah.
you get to the end and he's happy. You
Hmm.
watch him go through those trials and tribulations, knowing that it's going to all work
Yes,
out in the end.
yeah,
Well, the movie of our life is very similar.
right.
Like if we can envision what we were talking about earlier, really envision where we would like to be and how we would like it to come out, and then imagine it to be true and feel what it is like and give gratitude for that, then you can start to watch the movie of your life knowing that it has already happened. You
Yes,
just haven't gotten up to that part yet. And you don't may not know exactly how you're going to get there, but you can say, like, I know this is happening. And we know people who are like that. People, you talk to them, how's things going? These are great.
yeah.
Well, you don't have this or that yet. And they're going, oh, no, but everything's working out just great. It's getting
Nothing.
there.
Yeah,
And it's coming.
exactly.
And it's coming.
Yes.
And they're like, well, that's not like people want to see it,
Yeah.
and they're
I mean,
saying,
it's
no,
not about the end game. It's about the journey, right?
correct.
And if we're living in the presence of the journey in abundance, and I'm a scenario person, I've constantly got a movie going on in my head, always. And it's how I want to feel, and it's always of a different scene, of different people, a different that. And that's my form of manifestation. Universe, this is how I want to feel. I put people in my movie that are going to help me get where I want to go and how I want to feel in the achievement of what I'm doing, whether it be personal or whether it be professional. And that's the feeling I'm putting out to the universe. A lot of people think manifestation is that I want this tall, dark, and handsome, and he must be rich, and he must be this, and he must be that. And it's like, yeah, right. Amazon, there isn't in the universe yet. The universe will deliver what it is you need, but are you ready for it? Or are you still working in the past room of expectation? Or are you in the presence of allowing? And put out how you
Correct.
want to feel, how you want someone to make you feel, how you want to be with them. And then step out of the way as to how it comes to you or who comes to you, and allow it to happen, because you will get what you need if you don't dictate how it should be. Because how do we know what we want until it's there?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, people always they want to get something, so fast,
Yes.
and skip it, and if they don't know how they're going to get there,
Yeah.
they can't get out of their own way.
Right.
And look, we've all been there, and it's a comforting thing to think about. I'd like to think of it going on a journey. If I was going to, go from New York, and someone said you can go down to Florida, but you have to land in West Palm Beach, and you have to take this rickety old bus for an hour. But that you can't get around that. From the
Mm.
airport to there is the only way to do it. But you have two choices. You can either fly down there to West Palm, and then you can take the rickety bus for an hour, or you can take the rickety bus. It'll take you 2 days, so 48 hours. Stay on the rickety bus for 48 hours. I'd say, you know what? I think I'll just do the rickety bus for 1 hour,
Yeah.
and then I'll fly down there. But people, it's like something's going to happen in your life. You're going to get a test result. Maybe it's a test score.
Yes.
Maybe it's a health test, and it's coming in 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And you don't know what the results are going to be, but nothing that you do between now and then is going to change that
No.
result. But so you can spend that entire time on the rickety bus, or you can just enjoy sitting in first class for a while and not worrying about it, and that you're flying along until now you have to you do have to address it at some point,
Right.
and there will be a point, but that day that you can address it, but you don't have to do it. And people, we spend all this time waiting in the future room, feeling that anxiety, what if and what if and what if and what if, and well, have you done everything you can? It's not like if
Yeah.
you want something and you could be doing something to help you achieve something. Well, then it's okay. What can I be doing to help me
Right.
get there? That's one thing.
Do you
But if
find
you've done
also
everything,
that some people get stuck in the present too without looking at any future rooms? I was talking to a gentleman yesterday who has been diagnosed later in life in his 50s with MS. And now he said, oh, they're going to have to amputate my legs. They're going to have to do this. They're going to have to do that. And I said, hang on, you were given a label. Now understand what that label means and what it means to you. And now you have the empowerment to go and seek what others have done that are living with it very fruitfully, very abundantly. Or you can feed that disaster, that perfect storm, and join the storm, and become everything that they say, oh, this is going to happen to you. Or you can choose what's going to happen to you. You can choose in which way it happens to you, or if it happens to you at all. And that sometimes, I think, in the present room, being present in the now and allowing and understanding what your options are. But for some people, they get stuck in that present and all they can see is the storm, and they get stuck in that without actually paying attention to everything else that's around them, the
you
solutions.
see, but the being in the present room is all about your emotions. So even if
Mm,
you think that you're in the present room, but you're worrying about something that's going to happen, and even something like an ALS or something that you're battling with an illness, you think, and you're feeling all this negative emotions. You think you're in the present, but you're really not. Your
right.
thoughts are saying, well, what am I going to be doing about this,
What
and
if?
how
Yeah.
how is this going to affect me, and all of that. And so it's really about the emotions. When you're in the present room, you don't feel those emotions. And because if you're either thinking yourself as being healthy
Mm,
and saying that, I'm right here, I can't control, it's or I may not be able to control this disease, but I believe that I can feel good right now
right.
despite what's going on, but
Yeah.
despite what my body is saying, despite what's going on, around me. And and that thought and that presence and that connection to that inner, that higher self, that's where that greater presence, that all of us go back to the spontaneous healings. I mean,
Yeah.
people are healing themselves
Yes.
regardless of what the disease is. And you say, I want to tap into that. And that's what you could be doing right now, saying, well, people have done this. They have healed themselves.
Mm,
How have they? And it's not just about the thoughts. You can think that, okay, all right, I think I can do this. But if you don't truly, goes
right.
back to believe it and feel you can,
Yes.
it's not going to happen. But once again, the present room is about how you feel, not so much about just being what's going on
Right.
around you.
Yeah. And also into the feelings is don't get stuck into those negative feelings. There is always an answer to something, and there's always a reason for something. And so, maybe look into your future room at what those answers are, and then be able to do something in the present room that's going to lead to that. But don't just give up. And because so many people, I mean, more people, the cancer die from the diagnosis than they do the disease, in a sense, because, oh, I have it, therefore I'm going to die. And instead, I have it, what solutions and what options are open to me. And, that's the thing, I think, as a humanity, we're very inclined, aren't we, to go, okay, that's it, hands up in the air, it's over, instead of going, oh, this is a challenge, all right, I'm not giving up. What can I do? What else is out there that I can get through this and get through to the other side? So that becomes a choice, isn't it? A switch that we have in our own heads of what we're going to feed.
Absolutely. And it's really in the future. It's thinking about, where would I like to be,
Mm,
from where would I like to go from here?
yes.
And where would I like to be, from from now? And once again, imagining something and picturing yourself as being healthy. and
Yes.
and I know people say, like, well, you can't, you have to be realistic, and that's wishful thinking. But
Yeah.
if you can think about something, if you can feel better about those kind of thoughts, or you can feel worse thinking about things about, oh my God, this is not, I'm never going to, be better, and I'm just going to get worse. How is thinking that way,
Yeah.
quote, being realistic, any better than thinking, what, you know, I'm going to feel good now, and I'm going to keep trying to positively influence my, the genes in my body, because
Yes.
how I think can affect the genes in my body. It has been proven, so I'm going to give it a try, and I'm
It's
going
like
to
what
just
you
stay
said
right here.
earlier, about the feeding the negative energy and then feeding the positive, and how it raises, the chemical in your body that is of a higher vibration. That also is what you need to actually heal yourself. So if you're going to go into the woe is me, that's the end of days, then you're going to feed that cortisol. Or if you're going to feed, well, there is a solution, there's an answer to this, and I'm willing and open to receive it and raise that vibration, you're already feeding the solution.
This is very true. And it's interesting when we talk about vibrations, 3 rooms is all about your thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
so, what are thoughts? And I
Mm-hmm.
define them as a thought is a vibration
Yes.
that is stored as energy in this field of potential probabilities, just waiting to manifest. So it is up to us which thoughts that actually manifest. And we need to be on the same vibrational frequency as those thoughts. And so no matter what, if it's a negative thought that's making you angry, that thought is going into the same field of potential probabilities. And this can be this
Yes.
field has many names, the Akashic field, the zero
Mm-hmm.
point energy field, quantum field, or the prana, the
Mm-hmm.
ether, whichever you talk from a spirituality standpoint or from a science
Scientific, yeah.
standpoint, this consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
that there,
It's
and
measurable. Mm-hmm.
it's a field of potential
Yes.
probabilities. So
Yes.
that thought is in there, and if the thought is I can't, I can't, I can't, you keep and you're
Yes.
thinking that I can't, that's going to become your reality. It's not going to come true for
No.
you. But if you can put that in there and you can become on the same vibrational frequency as that thought, and you can stay there and believe it, and it's there. And that's what I like to think of. That's your higher self. That's the
Yeah.
script that your higher self is writing for you and telling you, here's where to go. Because when you really, and as I was referring to earlier, when you really connect to that that soul inside and communicate
Yes.
and say, I'd really like to, this is my intention. And you think of your intention and you assume it to be true, and you feel the joy of having it accomplished, then you go out into the world and you're watching that movie and you're in the
Mm-hmm.
movie of our life because we're
Yes.
already in there, and you're
Yes.
looking for the signs, and then all of a sudden you say, oh, that's,
Yes.
wow, that's what a, I can't
Yeah.
believe that.
I've been looking at that all the time.
Coincidence, I just bumped into you.
All
I
right.
was just thinking of
Yeah.
you, and oh
Yes.
my God, you can help me out.
Mm-hmm.
Because even Theodore Gesell, which otherwise known as Dr. Zeus, they said
Mm-hmm.
his book was rejected 27 times from the publishers, and he was walking down the street and he bumped into an old friend who just started as a publisher in a publishing company. He said, "Oh, you know what? Give me your book and let me see. Maybe we'll publish it." Now think of that. Like
Yeah.
this is something that was in his desire. It was a strong desire, and he said, "This is." And now, if your book is turned down 27 times, you have persistence. You have a
Yes.
belief in that, right? You're
Yes.
expressing something. You're putting it out there, saying, "I know this is. I'm not going to give up. This is going to happen. This is going to happen." Now he sees his buddy walking down the street. Now this is his energy, his vibrational frequency
Yeah.
is being matched, and here's
Yes.
the universe bringing that to him. Now, how many times do people see someone come and go, I don't want to see that guy, here comes Bill, and they duck into,
Yeah.
if he ducked into that store front,
Yes.
let him walk by, like so many of us do. We
Yeah.
say, oh, I don't feel like talking to him, and now he never would have been a children's
Right.
author because he
Exactly.
avoided it. And we do that, and all of a sudden, sometimes, if look, I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I'll
Yeah.
say, you know what, why did I do that? Maybe I was supposed to see him.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he had the
Mm-hmm.
really information. I have these desires. I have to trust, like, who's coming into my life. And the thing is, if you see that person again, now you really better pay attention, because it's twice. Like, say, all
Right.
right, now I think I'm supposed to. Now you go up to him and say, hey, how you doing, Sarah? What's going on?
Right.
What's up with you?
Exactly.
Because
Just
in
don't
my mind, I'm thinking, you
preconceive,
might have
right?
something for me.
Exactly. How do you know what is what, or what the connections are going to be, or who they know, or anything else, unless you're willing to connect and converse? Right? You could plant a seed in someone, not see them for months, and all of a sudden they're having a conversation. You know what? I met so-and-so that's doing this. I need to connect you. And that's what happens all the time. But if we're not willing to get out there and spend ourselves, share our passions, what we're trying to achieve. How do we allow other people to help us or connect us? If it's guarded, oh, they're not going to be interested, or no one's going to believe me. Get out there. If you're passionate about something, speak it, share it, blast it. You never know who is going to be that person that's going to be the igniter of it. And that's the thing. We've got to stop being so guarded, haven't we? We've got to be more collaborative and communicative with each other, because we have no idea how we're going to set that flame until we allow it. Going back to the allowing again.
It's so true. It's absolutely so true. Yeah,
Exciting times. Well, you allowed yourself to change your career and go down this road with this book, with this philosophy, which is so logical and so easy for people to be aware of and adapt to be conscious of your thoughts. Which room am I in right now? But why am I in that room? Is this something I need to go back and get from my old library that I can bring into my present room? Is this something I need to pop into my future room right now, do a little scenario movie and see how it can play out? It's like everything that's ever done, people model it first. They do all sorts of models on it to see how it works. We are talking on the computer, making a movie right now, a video. How many years ago, before it was the dial-up? And going on forever, and then a phone call would come in and drop the link. And how long ago was it that a computer was a city block? Just look at our advancements, because people allowed the belief that we can if we try. So why can't we take that same belief into our own lives if we allow ourselves believe we can and we're willing to try and explore?
It's so true. And if you think about that, the vision and our thoughts, and going back to what is a thought? I mean, I'm sitting in this chair, and so imagine you're sitting in the chair and getting uncomfortable, and you know what? I really could use a massage. And I wish this, I could get a massage right here. I don't have to go to see a chiropractor or a masseuse, and assume that there's no massage chairs ever made. And all of a sudden you get this idea and say, wow, I can make a massage chair.
Yes.
And you start thinking about all the things, how amazing that would be, how much you would love it and everyone else would love it. And you have this idea.
Yeah.
And now you release this idea, and it's an inspired idea.
Yes.
And then shortly after, you start thinking, well, I don't know anything about massages, and I'd have to find a chiropractor, and I don't know how to manufacture chairs. That's a kind of a dumb idea. And now you don't think of it again for a year. And why you don't think of it? Because you had that thought. That was an inspired idea. But then when you squashed it with the doubt and the negative emotions, I can't do that. And you stayed on that vibrational frequency. Your thoughts were just like, I can't do that. I can't do that. Now, a year later, all of a sudden something happens and you're feeling great. You're feeling inspired. And all of a sudden you're sitting down in your chair and you go, oh, now that idea comes back to you.
Yeah.
Because now you're feeling good. You're on that same vibrational frequency as that thought. Did that thought go away? Did it disappear? No. I mean, it was always stored in that field of potential probabilities waiting to manifest.
Yes.
But you have to connect with it.
Right.
And you were on this lower vibrational frequency. You were with the I can't thought. So now you're feeling good and you say, I'm really going to do this. And you start talking, and now you realize, you know what? My brother-in-law just became a chiropractor, or, and I'm going to talk to him, or, someone else who happens to manufacture office, equipment. And next thing you know, everything comes together. And in 1 year from now, you now have created the first massage chair. And now that's, and now your life takes off in that direction, and everyone's, happy.
Right.
So 2 years ago, you had that idea. It went away a year ago, so it ended up taking 2 years instead of 1, but it was always there waiting for you. And that's where our thoughts go when we get inspired ideas.
And if they're good thoughts, they will keep coming back. I call
if we're in a good mood.
If we connect and really see this possibility, you know what? That was a good thought. Let's nurture it. I believe in blueprinting. And I have blueprinted several things. And what I do is I blueprint them, I put them out there, I talk about them, I show them, and then it's see where they go. And if it keeps coming back to that this is a good blueprint and people are reacting well to it, it's just waiting for the architect to, or the builder to step forth and say, I see the plan, let's build it now. And, you know, or building the structure to a point, or the model for people to see what you're doing. It's like sometimes we don't have a dictation on how long something's going to do, but if you really believe in it, make sure people see it, give it that vibration, be invitational. And then somebody is going to come along and go, I like this blueprint, let's get it built, right? It's not storing it on some back shelf. It's owning it, putting it out there. If you believe in it, nurturing it in that future room. And then when the time is right, because other people then begin to see it, it's going to get built. So this is where the future room can coincide with the current room, because you just keep sending that vibration of I believe in it, I believe in it, I believe in it. And then that will resonate out with other people who will too.
Yeah, and you know what? I would almost put it in a different word. It's that
Please.
vision, that future vision that you maintain in the present room, because that keeps that expectation that something's going to happen, and that positive, you know, vibe that you are going to be attracting those things into your life. But it's exactly what you were saying. As long as if you can keep that vision, and because you will put it out there, if you have that vision, say, this is what I want. I believe it's going to happen, or even better yet, I believe it's already happened. And I'm just waiting for what's going to help guide you. And then you're going to keep it out there, because you're saying, how is this going to get out there? And you'll keep doing those things instead of, you know what, it's never going to happen. And that's when those thoughts in the future room of doubt start to sink in. It squashes it. But it's always now, that vision. And that's what visionaries, they're all about, using their imagination.
Well,
and
I mean,
holding on
it's like you with your 3 rooms. You actually had no idea where it was going to take you. You had this blueprint of the 10 chapters, then you went through, the plan of how it really could be put together so that it was coherent and that you understood it and you could articulate it better to put it out there. And then you had no idea this was going to be an end of one career and a beginning of a new one, but you believed in it. And the more you developed it, and the more you developed it, the more you believed in it, and the more it became your redirect. And so we don't know. The thing is, don't preconceive. Oh, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. Just simply look at the blueprint. How can we perfect it? What can we do to build it up to a certain level? And if it is meant to be, if we believe in it and it's meant to be, it will find its own way. Then allow it and follow. Because who knows where it's going to be? Everything where I am now is purely because I followed the wind. And, I believed in what I was doing, and I allowed the wind to take me where I was going. And it surprises me. I look back and go, oh gosh, look what I've done in 6 years. I didn't preconceive it. It was like, wow, okay. I followed the road, followed the yellow brick road. Right?
It's a wonderful thing.
It is, most definitely. Well, this is fantastic. And, I'm so glad you did redirect. As I said, it takes a lot of courage to do that. And it is a very simple process of mindfulness, of heartfulness, soulfulness, and manifestation and positive vibration and awareness of understanding which room we're in. But in doing so, you really can actually, hang on. I'm going down that rabbit hole, been there before. I know it's unproductive, bring myself back to the present. But why did I want to go down there? Okay, is it something that triggered me to go back to the past, or is there something I need to learn from the past to bring into the present? It's understand why we have those emotions, but don't get stuck in them, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting when you talk about going down that rabbit hole, because a lot of times it's us that goes to the past room. We, do that, and things like guilt. I mean, we're the worst on ourselves. We think about things we should have done, and we beat ourselves up. But other times, it's people like to drag us into the past room, and it's being aware of that. Like friends saying, you know what, Sarah, let's, I want to talk to you tomorrow. I have some things in my mind. And you say, okay, and you have some coffee, and then they start bringing up all these things from a year ago or 2 years. Remember you did this, and remember you did that, and you're like, well, I don't really remember. I didn't think, well, you really hurt my feelings. And I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I didn't know that I was doing, and all of a sudden you're just on the defensive, and now you're
Yeah.
feel awful, and you leave, and you're feeling terrible. And what they did was they just pulled you into the past room,
Right.
let what their issues that they're going through, they dumped them on you, and now you're feeling all those negative emotions. So one is being aware of when that
Yes.
happens. Like, people will drag you into the
Yeah.
past room, and you don't have to go there. You can, it can be that, I'm sorry you feel that way. Well, that
Right.
certainly wasn't my intention to make you
Yes.
feel that way, and let's move on.
Here's my
And
apology. Let's
if they
address the
can't move
now.
on,
Yeah, and if it's
exactly.
recently happened to me with that actually, and it's like, I'm sorry, I can't go into your room. I can't go into your room. My vibration is here. Going into your room will lower my vibration, and it caused a complete closed door. Well, that is your choice. That's your free will. But I'm not going to feel guilty because you want me to be in that room, and I don't wish to be so. And I think that's also laying value upon yourself of like, oh, but maybe I should go into that room. And it's like, why? It's not serving me, it's not serving them. And you also have to honor yourself and look after yourself, and to maintain that positive vibration. And if something's going to be negative and pull you down there, don't go there out of some obligation, because it's not going to serve anyone, is it?
No, and sometimes it may not even be about you.
No.
Maybe someone wants to drag you in
Yes.
about something they're feeling about someone else.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what, Billy did this to me. Isn't that wrong? She's,
Yeah.
and they can't let it go.
Misery loves
So they
company.
they want company, and
Yeah.
yeah, they want you to agree with them. And
Yes.
if you constantly are in the past room, always thinking about what other people have done to wrong you,
Yeah.
you are going to jump right in and agree with them.
Right.
Yeah, I hate when people do that. That's, I understand you where you are, and now they got their little click because they're
Yes.
all in that emotion. But
Yes.
when you say, you know what, I don't choose to go there, you say,
Yes.
look, I mean, I'm sorry that you feel that way for him, but you
Yes.
know what, I'm going to stay out of this,
Yes.
and I think you should let it go.
Right. I'm
And
very happy to help you and nurture you here in this vibration, but I can't go
correct.
into that vibration. And
Yeah,
when you're ready to come here, I'm going to help you through it, but I'm not going to lower my vibration to do so. If you want to rise up,
yeah.
yes. Me lowing down, no. And that's something I think we have to be aware of again, right? And understanding that don't get dragged into rooms you don't want to be dragged into. Be aware, honor yourself, because your vibration is not only important to you, it's the I am to be part of the we are. And if you're resonating on that higher vibration in your own instrument, you can join that orchestra of life and create that positive symphony. But you've got to decide, which music you're going to be, da 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 dum, or something more positive. So, again, choice comes back down to choice. And for me, I've been down that rabbit hole, and now I choose to be in this vibration because it not only serves me, it serves everybody around me. And I think that's a place we need to get to, isn't it? And then from there, we allow all the possibilities that can happen. And it's a really great room to be in. But the awareness, what room am I in? Why am I in there? No, I don't need that book. Put it back in the past. I've read that. It didn't, don't need to reread it, and come back out into the present again. And I think that awareness is very, very important. So having
Correct.
said that, how do people find your book? How did they find you to book you for any speaking engagements or anything else that you've got going on?
Well, the book is just on Amazon, so just Amazon.com, and you can put in Kevin Murphy and the three rooms, it will come up, and the website is www.the3rooms.com. And so I'll have other information in there on either how to buy the book, but more also just kind of talking about the concept of the three
Mm,
rooms and being in the three rooms, and I'll just start. I've just started to put out some blogs and some little articles because over the last couple of years, I was more living this and not doing much to promote this. People
right.
say, you have to start going out there and,
Mm-hmm.
building this whole huge audience and promote. And I just kept looking within
Mm,
and trying to live it. Once again, you
yes.
wrote the book, now live it. And so now it's just, it'll, organically grow. And
Yes.
if the message resonates with people, it'll reach who it's
Mm.
supposed to reach. And I'm fine with that.
Yeah, it's you doing in your beingness. by you being, you're doing, and I always say these shows are about inspiration for invitation. And, by you inspiring people, you're inviting them to want to know more and to step up and participate in their own lives by using the tools that you've shared. And that's all we can do, because again, the onus is on other people as to whether this is connected with them and what they're going to do with it. So you're purely providing something that can help them in their lives, their free will and their choice as to whether they're going to pick it up and use it. And that's all we can do, right?
That's correct.
Right.
Very true.
Well, this has been a delight. Thank you. I'm really
Thank
excited.
you so much for having me. I really appreciate that.
This has been really, really good. And meat and potatoes, I love it. It's simple. A lot of people, it's just, they just don't know how, as you said in the beginning. It's like so much going on. I don't know how. How do I separate all this dialogue? And as you said, by putting it into these 3 rooms, you can actually truly understand, separating it out, sorting it out. And now we can really clarify what is what needs to be fed, what doesn't. Being aware why I'm in that room. Is it serving? Is it not serving? And stepping into that awareness, stepping into that manifestation, stepping into positive vibration. And now we can actually have more control over our lives because we are trusting the allowing through that positive vibration. So thank you very much. So it's
very, very true.
3rooms.com. Please get the book.
www.3rooms.com.
And get it from Amazon. It's a great gift to give people. I know somebody who's going through chaos right now, or going through stress right now, or just inundated somehow in their lives, and just a wonderful gift to give people. Just simply say, it helped me, take a read, and see how it can help you, because that's all we can do. All we can do is that. So thank you so much, Kevin. This has been absolutely great.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I really appreciate it. Take care.
Until next time, folks, remember there is always a solution. So don't feed the problem, feed the solution in the now, in the current room. Bye for now. For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.